Gravity Rush was considered one of the essential games for the PlayStation Vita, thanks to its striking visuals, interesting story, and unique gameplay mechanics that made it a sort of action-adventure, platformer, RPG hybrid game. The game's protagonist, Kat, has also made many appearances in other PlayStation games, including as a DLC character in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale and Everybody's Golf 6, and a cat costume is available in Little Big Planet 2. Unfortunately, thanks to the Vita's poor sales, Gravity Rush may not have gotten the attention it deserved worldwide. Luckily, for the many people that don't own a Vita, a remastered edition was released for the PlayStation 4 that featured technical improvements such as graphics and controls, and running at 60 frames per second instead of the Vita's 30. So with that all said, let's see what all the fuss was about. The game follows the protagonist Kat, who wakes up with no memory of who she is in a town called Hexville. Despite this rude awakening, she seems pretty calm despite the fact that she's in a strange town and doesn't even remember her name. In fact, she's quite eager to start collecting furniture for the pipe she's living in and seems more concerned with helping the townspeople than regaining her memory. Though I suppose it is better than panicking about it. Also, I wouldn't shower in there if I were you. I have a feeling that water's been used in at least a dozen other people's showers. The town itself is a very French-inspired open-world steampunk town in the sky, as evidenced by the names of the districts and characters, as well as the French-Belgium-esque comic cutscenes. Each district has all sorts of architecture squeezed within them, and the buildings and details look fantastic whether you're up close or far away. Which is good, since you'll be spending a lot of time doing both. Even the precious gems you pick up are pretty as heck. They're just so bright and colorful, and it makes me wish there were gems that luminous in real life. I will say though, that this statue in the middle of Aldenoir certainly is, something. And yes, I know that this was probably inspired by the real thing in Brussels, but I can't help but wonder what they were thinking when they decided to add a frog and a turtle to the mix. Actually, what would make the statue even better is if all three of them were taking a piss. Now that would be a sight to behold. Is that immature of me to suggest? Maybe, but I thought it would be funny. The soundtrack is way too catchy for its own good. I didn't think I would get any of the music stuck in my head, but sure enough, after a few hours after I'm done playing, I'm hearing it on repeat. My favorite is probably the jazzy music that plays when you're in Plaisune, which is appropriate given that's the entertainment district. What really sets this game apart is its gravity shifting mechanics. First you levitate, then you— oh god, my stomach! Yeah, this game made my stomach queasy and my head dizzy when I first played it. The controls do take a little bit of time getting used to, but once you do, you'll be shifting around in no time. And once I learned to stop flying around like an idiot, I hardly got motion sickness and actually had a lot of fun flying from platform to platform, though having an empty stomach might have helped too. I also like how Kat's hair and scarf will point to the quote-unquote real down. It's a pretty clever and unique detail, and it's helpful so that you know where you're about to land. Besides story missions, there are a lot of other challenges you can complete throughout the town, which are unlocked with precious gems. And if you complete them to a certain proficiency, you'll actually be rewarded with more gems, which can be used to upgrade your skills. Also, a little exploit I noticed is that if you choose to upgrade your health, you'll also fully refill your health bar. So if you're ever in a pinch, have lots of gems saved up and there are no health boosts around, just upgrade your health bar and you'll buy yourself some reprieve. Another one of Kat's powers includes being able to pick things up and carry them with her anti-gravity field, which you need to do to complete several missions. This also includes being able to pick up random civilians and terrorize them. And yes, you can drop them into the endless void below, and no, there are absolutely no consequences for this. So much for being the town's savior. I can't say I ran into any technical issues in the game except for one. Early in the game, I would constantly get sent to the pause menu even when I wasn't pressing the options button. When I exited, a few seconds later I would be sent back and I would have to keep doing that over and over again. It was pretty annoying, but luckily it stopped after a while and didn't have any problems with it. I don't know what caused it or how it stopped, but I thought it would still be worth mentioning. The combat is about as simple as you can get. You're almost always going to be massing square with a couple of variants for special high-powered attacks. Such special attacks are given to you through, appropriately enough, apples that grow on power trees in the Rift Plains. I can understand why they chose to make it so simple, because a lot of the times you're going to be charging towards the enemy's weak points to kill them. Still, it does tend to get a bit tedious after a while, especially when you're fighting tough enemies and have to keep doing it over and over again. And yes, this game can get very frustrating, especially when you add said tedium, particularly during late game when there are super strong enemies everywhere. It might have been nice if there were just a few different basic attacks than the one that's already in the game, even if it's just for fighting on the ground. One thing that is good, however, is that your special attack will almost always aim for an enemy's weak point, so you won't have to worry too much about wasting it by accidentally flying through the air at nothing. You just have to make sure you're close enough. So the combat is by no means awful, but I think just a little bit of variety would have gone a long way. The story, I admit, wasn't too interesting to me in the first couple of hours. It wasn't bad or necessarily boring, but I didn't get super invested in it like I do with other games, even with the mysteries they were setting up. Though then again, at that point I was still mostly concerned about trying to get used to the controls so I wasn't flying around like a dumbass and getting sick. At about the halfway point, however, is when I think things got a lot more interesting. A lot of things happened during the latter half of the story, but at the same time I can't say it felt rushed or crammed. The game is also pretty short, so it's not as though you'll be having to slog through hours and hours of uninteresting story just to get to the good bits. And while a lot of the things that happen are setting things up for the sequel, there's still enough that's happening in the present to keep things satisfying. I also can't say the characters are terribly complex, but they're likable nonetheless, and no one does anything in the game that's frustratingly stupid. Because let's face it, nothing is more annoying than a character causing problems because they were being stupid and annoying. Kat's also a pretty likable protagonist. She's friendly to pretty much everyone, but also snarky on the inside. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And that's Gravity Rush. To be honest, when I first started playing the game, I didn't think the game was going to be for me. Not just for the gameplay, but also because I didn't really think too much of the story at that point. But I'm glad I decided to stick to it because I found myself really enjoying the game by the end, both the gameplay and story-wise. I don't think I would call this one of my favorites, but it's definitely one I would recommend, though I would also recommend not having a full stomach while playing.